Hello and welcome to CharityPulse, your regular update on news and happenings in the charity sector, the podcast where purpose meets personality. I'm James Saunders, I'm partner at Moore Kingston Smith, and I'm joined as ever by my co-hosts, Catherine Rastromji, partner and head of charities at Shakespeare Martineau, and Charles Mesquita, charities director at Quilter Cheviot. And we're going to dive into the heart of the charity sector, unpack the big issues, spotlight unsung heroes, and share the stories that matter. You may be listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, YouTube, any of our respective organisations' websites. However you're listening, you're very welcome. Please don't forget to like and follow, subscribe, and generally hit any positive feedback buttons you can for us, presuming, of course, that you do find our sessions useful. It's nearly Christmas, which means we're going to do a roundup of the year and see whether Charles and Catherine think that 2025 will be a memorable one for the charity sector, or whether it's one that'll be lost to the ages. Before we get to that point, there's two particular stories from this week I think that we ought to cover. One brand new one, and one an update on a story that's run throughout the year. The first one is the news that the government has approved the appointment of the next charity chair. Dame Julia Unwin has been is set to be appointed as the next chair. As you may know, she's formerly the Joseph Rowntree Foundation chief executive, and I think it's fair to say she's been reasonably popular with the sector and individuals, people who have commented. Charles and Catherine, I'll ask you about your thoughts. Catherine, can I come to you first? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent appointment. What I particularly picked up was her commenting that in the 3-year term, she wants the commission to be respected. And I just thought there's quite a lot behind that word, actually, because in the sector, I don't always think the Charity Commission is seen as a grown-up regulator, for instance, in the same way as the FCA, HMRC, Companies House. I think the Charity Commission can be seen as a bit childlike in that it's not got that maturity yet as that respect as the regulator. So it was interesting. She talked about, because although regulators are often not liked and certainly not loved, they need to be recognised and respected for what they do, which I thought was just a useful way of her setting out her intent, perhaps. And the fact that she talked about, listening, getting to know the sector, adjusting to that role, to me, was setting the right tone for somebody coming in. I think she'll be good.
Yeah, I must admit. Sorry, James. I was just going to say on that respected. I picked it up, but I actually think the Charity Commission is respected by charities. Yeah. I till you just said that, I hadn't actually really thought that she was talking to the parliamentarians and to the establishment, to making sure. I thought one of the comments that she made was, I've never seen the charity sector so brittle, so challenged, and in such difficulty. And I think that calls for the Charity Commission to be very much on the front foot of those issues. If we cast our mind back, the last time we had somebody who was a chair of the commission was, in fact, the first one, which was Geraldine Peacock. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I was trying to reflect back on her tenure because we had Andrew Hind was the chief executive, and I think it was a very good combination. But my memory of Geraldine Peacock, one is that, she was passionate about the sector. She was a larger than life character, hugely qualified, because I think she'd been with the Guide Dogs and prior to that, National or... Anyway, whichever, but she'd been a chief executive. And the other thing I do remember her being very involved with was the Charities Act and getting involved with impact or social investment.
Okay. You picked up there, Charles, that there's two different calls there, really, from the incoming chair. The first one is the Charity Commission is in a difficult position. And the second one is it's got to act with teeth. So, that's the commission's got to act with teeth. There are two. We've said before, this is the very difficult bit about being the regulator and also the main monitoring organisation, representative, supporter, whatever. there still seems to me there is that difficulty in trying to be both. Catherine, what do you think?
Yeah, possibly. I do. I mean, I like that this is not a political appointment for a change. I like that it's somebody who's worked in the sector. I think she is coming across already in the things she's saying as being robust, of understanding the challenges that are facing the sector, what the regulator needs to do, to discharge its function, yes, but also to help charities in the sector and how they can navigate, these difficult times. And I think sometimes, I mean, my experience is I think the Charity Commission needs to stand up to MPs more, to say, we're not here as your little puppet, to look into those charities that you've fallen out with in your constituency, or that you're trying to get press coverage by berating a charity. That is not the role of the Commission, to respond and react to those. So that's where I would hope we see more of a move away from that, and the Commission is able to stand on its own 2 feet more.
Okay. Yes, Charles.
Yeah, I was just going to add 2 things. One is, I think she's used the word, I'm interested in leading a decisive charity commission, which I think is interesting language. So I think that would, to me, reflect that she wants the commission to be more assertive. I think also they've got an educational thing, because I mean, we all are effectively regulated by our bodies, and we know how to deal with a regulator, because they're not our friend. And therefore you've got to deal with them respect, and you've got to deal with them punctually. I think the problem is, I think out in the sector as a whole, and trustees, they look at the commission as the sort of the final arbiter. We've seen this time and time again. There are problems within a charity. They turn to the commission to be the one that's going to mediate and resolve the dispute, and that's not their job. And I think she's laying that down very clearly.
Okay, good. So I think we're pretty positive about that. That's good. Good news for the end of the year. The second story that's appeared this last week or so, it involves this story that has been ongoing for some time now. HMRC looking at cashed checks in charities, and the Commission investigating charities around the same matter. So this is, you may recall, this started back in May, I think. HMRC identified 105 charities with cash checks. The Commission looked at 10 of those, and then another 10. Started with the first 10 in May, another 10 in August. Now it's announced it's looking at another 12, adding those 12 more charities to its investigation. Some pushback from the charities themselves about how much this investigation is overboard, and claiming that charities are having to spend valuable charity funds on, defending its position or arguing the case. But this seems to have no sign of stopping at the moment. Catherine, what do you think? I mean, it just seems to keep sort of rolling on, this case.
It really does. And I think the more charities that are named, I keep scanning it thinking, I hope none of my clients are on there, because that's just not a list you want to be on.
Yeah.
I mean, I did see the comment from one trustee saying the Commission's gone overboard with it. But I thought, well, actually, from the outside in, it looks entirely inappropriate. It looks like there's just some sort of front door and somebody behind it with lots of checks moving money around. And the comment was, they've done this because they were experiencing banking issues. And we've covered this before. There are challenges for charities trying to navigate the banking sector, but that doesn't mean you do something like this. And we don't know whether there is anything to it yet, but it really doesn't sound like proper financial management of charitable funds. So yeah, I think whether they can respond to the Commission's concerns, we'll wait to see, but it is not looking great, I think, from the outside looking in.
Charles, how would you feel if this was if there were cashed checks in the charity you're a trustee of?
Well, I was trying to understand what the issue. I mean, I do understand what the issue here, but obviously you've got organisations got a problem with banking, and they've got checks, and they're getting somebody to cash them, but it doesn't say that what's going on is untoward. Yeah. It just seems to me, this goes back to we had a previous occasion on this, didn't we, about the controls in place and suitable governance and oversight. And again, I don't think the Commission is necessarily explaining that particularly well. because it may be that you've got a whole lot of small organizations that don't have a bank, their banks are closed or whatever it may be. And for them to carry on doing what they need to be doing, they need to have some cash into the system.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, as a trustee, cash floating around scares the hell out of me.
Okay, so clearly a story that's going to run into the new year, and then a bit longer if there's 105 charities that are involved here, and they've looked at 30 odd of them so far. Clearly, it's someone to keep an eye on. Right, that's the couple of stories that have circulated this week. We're going to have a look at the annual review of the year and see what 2025 brought to the charity sector in your esteemed opinions. I wanted the first one, charity sector highlight of the year. Charles, I'm going to ask you this first. What was your sector highlight of the year?
I'm afraid my sector highlight is the same every year, and it comes down purely the people I meet and the passion I see. I was just, as it happens, last week I was visiting a hospice in the northeast of England, and I have to say we went into the cafe. The volunteers were just amazing. There was a lady on reception who I think was in her 80s, who just could not be more friendly. We were shown around the hospice, and just you just see an amazing organization. And despite all the challenges that they face around funding and everything else, the passion and the commitment is just really humbling. So to me, highlight is definitely what charities do and the people that are involved with it.
Excellent. Catherine?
Well, isn't that interesting? Because mine was also about charity hospices, but in general, I thought the work that Hospice UK have done and charity hospices generally about their campaign to let people know more about the work of hospices, lobbying government to get more funding. It's still massively underfunded, but I think the improved relationship with Wes Streeting, with the respect that NHS should be giving to hospices for the good work that they're doing, I thought that was a fantastic turnaround and showed the strength actually of the sector when you get together, the outcome and the results that they can generate. That I thought was fantastic. I think that's really been a stand apart story for me this year.
Okay, what about any lowlights, any real problems any big disappointments, Charles? Anything spring to mind?
Okay, so from a financial one, I think banking and the continued problems that are going on, and I take my hat off to Charity Finance Group for their work in this, but I just find it absolutely unacceptable that banks haven't responded more positively towards this, and it seems to be around not understanding their constitutions.
You're talking about debanking and challenges of understanding. Yeah.
But for whatever, you can do it to private individuals. Why can't you do it to charities? And then I suppose the other bit of low light would be the sort of Centre Bali case, but that has a sort of slight double-edged sword. Have I just stolen some time?
I was going to say,
go on, I'll leave that to you.
Do it in your Italian, Centre Bali. I thought was because I just thought it's so not typical of the sector, and I think stories like that damage the brand and reputation of charities. To say, hang on, it just looks like you're playing. You are messing about, setting up a charity. It doesn't seem to be doing much charitable work. You're infighting. You're not focusing on the beneficiaries. So I thought that whole bubble was disappointing, was a low light for me, and just because it got so much press coverage as it would, but I think it's that trickle effect of how that then impacts other charities that are trying to do good work and are doing their governance properly.
Yep. Okay, go on, Charles.
Can I add one thing to that? Is because actually I think the Charity Commission produced a very good report. I think they reacted very quickly and they got to the nub of it. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
Catherine, what's the current position? Has it all sort of gone away now?
Well, I don't know. I think it's just quieted down. I think the Commission are still looking into it in detail, and I think there's more.
Still got 3 trustees.
Oh, 3 trustees left at the moment. I mean, I just wonder whether it can recover as an organisation. That's the bit to me. Even if they sort out who said what, who did what, blah blah blah. To me, it's whether this charity can continue to operate, or whether actually you just end up saying, no, we'll transfer the funds, whatever is left, to another charity doing similar things. I just wonder if there isn't really a place for it anymore.
External matter that has impacted on the sector? Charles, you had an idea on this one.
Oh, I mean this is very simple, isn't it? The not the last budget, the one before, with NI and minimum wage going up,
And now the minimum
and
wage,
also
yes.
actually, funny enough, talking about hospices earlier, with the NHS rise increasing their salaries has a knock-on effect into any of the charities that are involved in that sector. So, but NI particularly, I think unintended consequences. I don't think the government realised how big that was going to impact on charities. And also I found it deeply depressing that when they were told about it, they didn't actually do anything about it, because of all the public funding that they do. It just meant that charities had to do more or the same with less.
Yeah, again. Catherine, any particular major legal change or development in 2025 that springs to mind?
Yes, we did get the final bits, that's a technical term, final bits from the Charities Act 2022 has come in. So there have been some useful amendments that have come in this year. I think the last bit possibly has been the most useful, which is all around ex gratia payments and the ability of charities to be able to make certain payments up to certain levels without having to go to the Charity Commission for consent. So I think that frees things up a bit. And that took longer than I thought it needed to work out that you can just exclude cultural assets from that. So that had been the delayed provision that many charities had wanted to come into force, but because of the kind of Elgin marbles and other assets being concerns around whether museum charities would be transferring assets out, that's been carved out. So you think, fine. But then for the sort of book standard exercise of that power, I think it's really useful for charities to have much more of that discretion and ability to make whatever payments they think is appropriate without always having to go to the Charity Commission.
Yeah, and with your governance hat on, presumably the land of the Charity Governance Code update towards the end of the year have a bit of an impact.
Bit of an impact. I don't like the new graphic. I think they got rid of the Pantheon? We decided
the house
and the house. I liked that. That's gone. So now it's 8 principles, not 7. EDI is now equity, not equality. So some little bits in there that will no doubt catch me out for years to come. But I did think it was a useful update, and I think it is still keeping it front and centre for trustees to think about the Charity Governance Code, which can only be a good thing.
This may be a complete hospital pass, but I was told the other day that equality has a definition in HR law, but equity doesn't, and therefore it's very dangerous. Is that right? Is that right sort of gist?
It is, and lawyers can debate till the cows come home the difference between equality and equity and what you should. I mean, I think the principle is there, isn't it? I think it's whatever is general parlance and what trustees will understand, I think, rather than getting too technical about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Let's
keep away from technicalities. That suits me. Charles, anything on the investment management or holdings or anything like that in your field that's really caught your eye in 2025?
Well, we haven't hit the end of the year yet, but it's been a pretty good year for investments, despite what's been going on in the US. From a charity's perspective, the two things I would say is the debate has been around investing under a Trump presidency, and particularly the impact on environmental, social, and governance. But I've also noticed over the last couple of years where that was, I was going to say, quite a hot topic and quite evangelical for a lot of people. That has definitely softened in the sector, and people seem to be taking a much more pragmatic approach. And then the sort of non-event on the investment side has been the investment governance principles, which, I mean, I still can't quite understand why they came about and what value they've added. And the fact that they've had very little traction, I suspect, probably says it all.
Okay. What about the charities themselves? Is there any particular charity, any particular charity activity or action that charities have undertaken that's really impressed you in 2025? Catherine?
I think charities have been smarter. I think social media as well, using it, rather than charities have, I think, in the past been on the back foot and almost kind of reacting to things. And then if you're into animals, I thought the Battersea advert on TV, I mean, they do it very well, don't they? I mean, you know, I know some people would say, how much are they spending on this? And is it worth it? Blah, blah, blah. But the fact is that gets the brand out there, you know, whether that gets more legacies, more donations to support the charity. But I thought it was particularly well done. And you always like a bit of Aretha to get things going. So I thought it was a good song choice as well. So, yeah.
Cracking. Perhaps one more for you, Charles. Most infuriating moment of the year. Is there anything that's really? I mean, we'd have to pick out from a number of examples during our podcast this year. But is there anything that really you wish it could be changed looking back? Let's put it that way, rather than infuriating.
I think prize draws and the voluntary code, because I still sit there completely and utterly flabbergasted that this doesn't come under the Gambling Commission. I just don't think anybody in the general public would understand that. The different thresholds. This is your area of expertise between Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England and Wales. Just because we've got different legal doesn't, you know. I think, why would you have different ones? And then the final one, which is more personal, is that I had a situation where I had to write to the Commission. And I got what I would describe as a binary response. And when I happened to be on a platform with a relatively senior member of the Commission, in fact, they were very pragmatic about it. And I hope one of the things of Juliet Unwin coming in and under David Holsworth, the change will be that they will give greater responsibility and therefore flexibility to those responding to charities, because it was, you know, we had set out in a letter very clearly, we understood exactly the position that we were in, but we needed their permission to do something, and they wanted to take us through the process and sent me all the guidance which I'd already quoted to them.
Okay, Catherine, anything to contribute on that, or?
Just, bring on the new chair, I think, of the Charity Commission. I think, you know, it's positive. I think the noises so far, I think, between the new chair and chief executive is in place now. And I would agree with Charles. I think at times there is that right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And actually, matters I've got on with the Charity Commission at the moment, there's a 16-week delay of waiting to hear from the Commission. And yes, there's been recruitment and there's talk about training more staff, but I just think that's where you've got to look at, is that actually functioning when charities are waiting that long for permissions? You know, it's going to slow things down. It's not helpful to have that. So that's where I hope the processes can be streamlined and just, you know, get things moving again. Yeah,
good. Most looking forward to in 2026. You touched a little bit on that with the new, the new Charity Commission chair coming in. But Charles, is there anything you're really looking forward to in 2026 for the charity sector?
Looking forward to or hopeful?
I think either.
I would love to see the government really working in partnership with the sector, so that would definitely be a big one for me. With the compact, no, it wasn't covenant. Thank you. It was compact, was the previous one, wasn't it? And then, if I had a real wish list, is government funding of charities. I just think that the procurement process for a lot of what they're doing, I'm not convinced is a good use of money on both sides, and therefore I think that if they clearly are delivering something that is part of the welfare state, government needs to commit to that, and to, in the pursuit of reducing the costs for charities, just on that, having to go through all the whole application stuff.
Catherine, your crystal ball for 2026, anything really stick out?
I think, you know, just seeing the sector being taken seriously, you know, being given prominence where it should be, not being overlooked by government in these policies that are brought in without even realising the scale of the sector. So, you know, I'm hopeful that this would be the year that charities get, you know, their due deserts, because I think they're working very hard, often unsung, and, you know, hopefully should see more of that respect coming through.
Excellent. Well, that is whistle-stop tour through the year, and hopefully there's a little bit in there that prompts a few memories. That's we've got time for this week. We've covered an awful lot of ground, so Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Charles. And thank you to the listener for tuning into this episode of Charity Pulse. We hope that this conversation's offered a bit of insight, a bit of inspiration, and a little bit of understanding of some aspects of our most important world of charity and social impact. If you've got any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please do let us know. Whether you're a charity professional or a passionate volunteer or simply someone who cares about making a difference, we do try and make sure there's something here for you. Don't forget, please follow us, leave a review, share our podcast with your network, and join us next time as we continue to explore the challenges and opportunities facing charities, non-profits and voluntary organisations. Best festive regards, Merry Christmas, bye-bye for now. Thanks very much.